In this video, we're going to be working on our query. Okay. Um, so we want to be able to filter by location, the location name. So when we pass in a query here, we want to be able to filter out the locations here in this list based on the query we pass in, and also simultaneously filter out the markers that we have here. Before we go ahead and do that though, I noticed that we have the same um, info window popping up for each of the markers when we click on any of this list. And actually, this is happening because the last time we set our info window, the last whatever information we pass in on this info window is still the one that is showing. Okay. And that is because from our um, undo click here, we're supposed to set the content. Okay, we're supposed to set the content of our info window when we click on any of this. Okay, and that is what we are going to be doing. Um, okay, so right now nothing is showing, but when we click on this, that's what gets to show. Okay, because we are not setting the info window, so we're going to set it here. We're supposed to do something like window window.info window.content. Okay, um so from here we are setting content here. So we're supposed to set content, but instead of having to duplicate this code, right, here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use prepare content here. I'm going to declare this function somewhere else. Okay, I'm going to declare it in the parent. So I'll move this to the parent, and then I'm going to pass it as a prop to the map um, component. So I'm going to say prepare content uh, equals to this dot prepare content. Okay, and then right here I'm just gonna go ahead and say this dot props dot prepare content. Okay, and then actually this dot props dot prepare content locations. So it's complaining content dot there's a complaint here, content.js line 20. All right, we didn't complete this statement. Before we complete this, let's just be sure that this that what we have so far is working. So it's still working. All right, and this is gonna still pick up whatever is last here, Starbucks for everything. So what we're gonna do is right here we're gonna call set content and then pass in whatever we get back here. So let's say let's get our content. Let content equals to this dot prepare content, and then pass in the location, and then we're going to pass in content here. In that way we can be sure that this is gonna the info window for the location is gonna pop up. And now we have an exception. So it says this dot prepare content is not a function. I think we got this exception before, and that is happening because um, the reference to this actually is the function here, the handle click function. So, but we actually want this method is actually on the class, right? Um, so we're gonna change this to use arrow function, and now it should work. So if I click this, now it's working fine as it should. And Sam's Club, Shogun, Crystal Bridges, perfect. Um, so now let's move on to the to queries. Okay, so we want to be able to type in something here. Type in ABC, for example, or type in art, and then filter the locations here by whatever query we pass in here. So how do we implement that? First of all, whatever we have here, we want to go ahead um, and where is it? We want to go ahead and get the query that is being passed in, and that is actually in the list um, component. Okay, so we're gonna be able to get that value. Um, where's the text? So this is the text. So we want to go ahead and get this value. Okay, and that value. Okay, we want to go ahead and so now this value. Okay, what do we want to do with this value? Once we get this value, we want React to keep track of that value. Okay, so that when it changes, we go ahead and re-render all our components. Okay, so and when we render our components, we want to filter out the locations and also filter out whatever is on the map. So how do we do that? We do that by making by creating a state. Okay, and then have React manage that state for us. So we're going to do that here in the content. In content here, I'm going to just go ahead and create a query here, make it an empty string. Okay, um and then and then um in our list here, let's go ahead and pass query string as a prop. Okay, so we're gonna have this the state dot query string. When this changes, right, we want to be able to handle that event. Okay, so we want to handle an event, an on change event. Okay, so we're gonna put it here on the input. We want to say that when the value changes, um, when this changes, okay, we want to go ahead and undo that change. Okay, how do we want to handle that change? I'm going to say undo that change, but I'm going to put it in the props. Okay, so let me just put it here. This dot props dot undo change. I want to set that the value. Okay, so what the value is. All right, so now in our content.js, let's go ahead and pass a props here. Okay, we're gonna say undo change, undo text boxed, or let's just say undo change. All right, So I'm going to say this dot undo text box text change, all right, or query change, whatever. And then let's go ahead and write a function here. So I'm going to call it, I call it this. Oops. And I'm passing what? I'm passing it the query or the text. Okay, I'm just going to call it query. Okay. And for now, let's just console. Now, in here, so what do we want to do here when we get a query? When we get a query, we want to go ahead and set this query. Okay, this value here. And the reason why we want to do that is that once we set this value, it's going to cause React to re-render all our components. Okay, so let's just set this set state. What am I going to call it? Query. I'm going to call it query. Actually, because I have the same name, I can go ahead and do this. Okay, and that'll be fine. And let's test that out. Okay. Actually, I did put something here for testing. It's list.js. All right. I put this here so that we can test once that value changes. So whatever we had, so whatever we the value we had here and the value here, right, on change, we go ahead and call that props, the undo change, and then that gets consoled. Sorry, that sets the state, the query value, and then that renders our component, and then we're going to see this here. Yeah, and we have an exception. Why do we have an exception? So we have this dot set state. It's not a function. Okay, I think it's the same issue. I'm gonna use arrow function, and let's try it again. All right, so our component is getting rendered now, but this is not this value. It's not been set. Why is that? So list.js locations, this dot props dot query string. All right, let's see what's happening. Query string is this dot state dot query string. Actually, we don't have query string as a state. That's why it's actually supposed to be this dot state dot query. Okay. Now let's try it again. Yep. Now it's working. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So now we know that our that is working. So, but when we get a value here, what we actually want to do is that we want to go ahead and filter, right? We want to filter our locations. So, where is it here? What we want to do is want to say that if before we do that, okay, we want to go ahead and say if query, right? If there is something in the query, like if there is a value, right? We want to go ahead and say this is a set state. We want to filter out what we have in that location, right? in our locations data, we want to go ahead and say um, you know what? Let's do something here. Let's add another um, state value here. I'm gonna say query result. Okay, I'm gonna do that here. And why am I doing that? Okay, I'm doing that because when I filter out my locations, right? Um, and I update the locations based on whatever filter came in, right? If I did this, if I did locations now, if I do this, if I set the state of locations um, to filter, right? Let's say I filter that locations, right? Filter data or filter locations, um, and I pass in the query here. Now I need to write the function here. Let me write the function to filter. So let's write this function here, filter locations. So basically you pass in a query, you and you pass in the locations, right? What do you want to do? We want to return locations dot filter. We want to return that for each location, okay? For each location, we want to return a location that has the name, okay? Um, a location that has the query, that contains the query, okay? This is what we want to return, okay? And let's go ahead and do this. And right here, I'm going to pass in the location. Obviously, this is going to be this dot state dot locations, okay? This is what we want to do. Okay, but see what's going to happen. All right, now if you go back, nothing shows up, right? Okay, nothing shows up because we've set the state of our locations, and now our locations is empty, right? So what we want to do is I want to create a query result. This is going to hold our original data, or this is going to hold our original data, okay? And then we're going to filter, right, by this. So what we want to do here is that the algorithm is that if there's a query, go ahead and set locations to no, actually it's right here. Or where is it? Where is the method? And the text change. All right. So if there is query, go ahead and set that location to whatever the filtered data is. But okay, if there is no query, okay, is that where we're supposed to put our else? Oh, I think we're wrong. This ends. This is our if. All right, but if there's no query, go ahead else set our state, right, to equal set locations to equal what? The original data, right? query there now. Query, what do we call it? Query result. Actually, that's not a good name. I'm just gonna call it maybe our original or full locations. Okay, or all locations. All locations. Okay, and I'm gonna change this here. So set this to all locations. Yeah, so what else? All locations. Sorry. Set this to this dot state for all locations. Okay. Now all locations is not defined. So what we want to do is that when the first time we call our API, and when we set these locations, we want to go ahead and also set all locations. Okay. I'm going to call this response. Okay. So now if you come back here and we do this, right? If you go back, we have all our result. Okay. And that's working fine. So let me see. Let me put crystal. Actually, let's do one more thing, right? This is actually, we want it to be case insensitive. We want it to be case insensitive. So right here, when we filter, let's go ahead and set and make this lowercase. So I'm gonna call location. No, where is the filter location? Look for each location. Okay, I'm gonna set this to lowercase. So dot to lowercase. All right, and then also dot. Okay, and then also set this to lowercase. All right. Now it won't matter. It won't matter if I put CR or I put capital C. All right, it wouldn't matter. Okay, now let's move to the next thing. The next thing is that currently when we filter, we are only filtering from here, right? We're not filtering by whatever is on our markers. And the reason is that, right, currently our locations that we are using, the data we are using in map seems to be what? We pass in a location, right? We pass in locations that we got from this.props.locations, okay? And let's come to content.js. In our content.js, we pass in this dot state.locations, okay? However, though, when we create our markers, we created our markers here. We are keeping the state of that markers, right? We once we create the markers, that is what it is, right? We don't go ahead and modify it. So what we want to do is that we want to be able to update our markers also based on what? Based on whatever locations, whatever data is contained in this locations array. Okay, that is what we want to do. And how do we do that? We do that by how do we do that? So now you realize that our markers, right? They show here because we go ahead, right? When we added markers, what we did was we set where did we do it? We set the map, right? We're setting our map to a map object. There's a property called a map object. But what if we change this to null, right? What if we set this to null? It means that all our markers is going to disappear, right? Because it's not set on this current map. So that's what we're going to do. That's the trick we're going to play. We're going to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and say set map, okay, on markers, okay. Let's write this function. And what we're going to do is that we're going to say for let's say let I equals to 0, right? I less than window dot, actually we have this dot macros, actually we have a macro, say this dot macros dot dot length. Okay, so we have this macros here. I'm gonna say I plus plus. So what are we doing? We want to say that um, we go ahead and for that marker we go ahead and say this dot markers dot set map. Okay, there's a method called set map. So basically we're setting this map. I think set map, or yeah, we're gonna go ahead and say set it to null. Okay, let's set it to null. And what this is gonna do is that each time that we change our text here, right? Each time we change our text here, what we did was we went ahead and we created a on change, what was it, text change, right? And we set this query, and what that does is that it goes ahead and it updates our locations, right? And then when we update our locations, which is also a state, we want to go ahead and do what? We want to go ahead and render. Um, I mean, it goes ahead, React goes ahead and render our map, all the child components, right? And it's going to call this render function. And when it calls this render function, the first thing we want to do is first we want to clear the map, right? We want to clear the map of all these markers, and then we want to go ahead and add the markers again. When I had markers, basically which is going to add the markers to this map. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to say this dot set marker, set map on marker, and I'm going to actually just pass it to null, right? Or yeah, I could have just passed this null, or I could just call this remove markers, right? Remove map markers, and just put it that way and call it here. Okay, and let's see what's going to happen. We have an error. Yeah, this is always happening. Let's make this year 6. Okay, because of we are calling using this, and this is making this as a reference. Okay, let's change it to arrow function. All right. Okay, what is happening? All right, it says this dot markers dot set map is not a function. And why is that? Oh, yeah. I need to set the marker, each one actually. So let's try that. All right, so A, let's say C, crystal. All right, so now this actually is working, which is awesome. Great. And I think that is kind of like the functionality. Let's go ahead and just do some cleaning on our I mean on our map, on our list. Let's go ahead and apply some CSS, and then I think we can I think this should be the where we're going to end this video. Okay, everything works as it should be, just some CSS styling, and then we're good. Okay. The only thing I'm going to try to just change is just maybe just make this list scrollable. So I'm going to go back here. Remember that we have a div of list, and in our app.css we already have this. So I'm gonna there's a probably called overflow. I think it's overflow y, and I'm gonna call it scroll. Okay, and that should, yeah. So now this is scroll level and list style. Is it list style? All right. So yeah, I'm gonna end the video here. The other thing is just CSS, and I think yeah we are good with the way it is. So this concludes the building React neighborhood React application, right? Feel free to leave comments and ask questions. If you like my videos, go ahead and like um, or subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be creating more videos. Okay. Thank you for watching.